There's so many more things of hydrating, and when you do get your bell rung, right? Like, let's treat it. Let's not like celebrate it, Let's actually treat it for what it is, help the brain heal. And then all these other things, as you get to our age, like there's these other modalities that help us heal drastically. And so we need to, just like the executive order that was just signed, we need to study these things, because this is something, right? The inflammation alone on a concussion, right? Ibogaine takes that inflammation out. So there's one reason right there that, not saying it'll happen, but down the road, is that something that players, while they're playing, should be taking some sort of Ibogaine to get the inflammation down. It's better than the other stuff they're given now. So I just think it's continued education, studies, and then people like us talking.
Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Broken Brains with your host, Bruce Parkman, the official podcast of the Mac Parkman Foundation, where we look at the issue of repetitive brain trauma from two aspects: repetitive head impacts from contact sports and repetitive blast exposure from our military veterans, and what these two conditions are doing to the brains, mental well-being, and health of our veterans, athletes, and children. Why is this important? Because this is not trained in any of our nursing, psychological, and medical communities today. So our stakeholders, our caretakers are not informed, and that makes us the first line of defense. So we're out there, looking for all kinds of, awesome guests to come on the show, so you get that 360-degree perspective of the situation, so you can make informed decisions about the people you love and people that you know that are struggling. On today's show, another amazing guest here, Robert Gallery, Mr. Gallery. When they're this big, you call them Mr. all the time. That's just the way it is. All right. As a former NFL offensive lineman, widely regarded as one of the most dominant college football players of his era. Born on July 26, 1980 in Manchester, Iowa, Mr. Gallery rose to national prominence at the University of Iowa, where he became a cornerstone of the Hawkeyes offensive line. And in 2003, he won the prestigious Outland Trophy, awarded to the nation's top interior lineman. It was a consensus All-American. Mr. Gallery was selected second overall in the 2004 NFL Draft by the Oakland Raiders. Initially projected as a franchise left tackle, he transitioned to guard, where he found greatest success and became one of the league's more reliable interior linemen. Over his career, he also played for the Seattle Seahawks and God's favorite football team, the New England Patriots. Known for his toughness, work ethic, and physicality, Robert started over 100 NFL games across 9 seasons. While his professional career didn't fully match the expectations of a top draft pick, he remains respected for his resilience and longevity in the league. You make it over 4, you're a pretty bad dude. After retiring from football, Robert stayed connected to the sport and his community, often engaging in business ventures, local initiatives in Iowa, and helping his fellow NFL players. Robert, thank you for coming on the show. Welcome to the show, boss.
Thanks, Bruce. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, man. Dude, so did you play under Belichick?
No, so I was there. I was only in New England for a cup of coffee. I got released from Seattle. I signed with the Patriots, and it was, for me, it was, what I'd been looking for, a franchise with, a consistent winner. But I was so beat up when I got there. I'd had 3 surgeries that off season. So I did off season program, and we got about 2 weeks into training camp, and my body and my mind was done. And so I went in, and, I wanted to be there so bad just because of the winning mentality there and what they had done. But just told coach appreciated the opportunity, but, I couldn't perform at the level I needed to, and I didn't want to waste his time.
The grouchy old lobster boat captain, as they call him in the Wall Street Journal, man. Yeah, I've never met the guy before, but
I liked it.
that's just
I've been around obviously we had a large turnover of coaches in Oakland, but I could appreciate it, right? And it's all about winning, and I'm sure the guys in the building get tired of it, but when I got there, I loved it, because that's I wanted to win. I wanted to be in the playoffs, and so yeah, I could appreciate it.
Dude, that's amazing, man. So let's get into it. So when did you start? How old are you? How old were you? Is Iowa like Florida and Texas, or like you just play football, man? That's just the way it is, right?
Well, I
Or
think
is
I think a smaller version, yes. In high school football, yes, but we didn't start in the little town I grew up in. I didn't start football until 7th grade. That's when the first time you put pads on. That's the first time. We're playing flag football at recess, but there was no flag football leagues or Pee Wee Pop Warner leagues. So, my first exposure to tackle contact football was in my seventh grade year.
And then you go, and then you went on, in high school, moving on into Division One. What made you, did you just it was the University of Iowa because, that's where you came from, or, did you have options for other football teams?
I did. So I was lucky. My one of my older brothers played. He got a full ride to the University of Iowa before me, and so I knew about the university. I was obviously a very proud Iowan. There's that other in-state school that I didn't like. I had an uncle that played actually for Iowa State, but I wanted to be a Hawkeye, and so it was I got to see what he did, what the opportunity he got at the University of Iowa, and then so this is dating myself, but I sent VHS tapes to colleges of my quote unquote high school highlights because I wanted to play in college, and I saw what my brother did, and so I had a few offers. I had an offer from Purdue, Northwestern. But I always knew I was going to go to Iowa. But it was fun as a kid from a very small town to, Joe Tiller was the head coach at Purdue. He came, they had just won the Rose Bowl, and he came to my school. So it was a big deal, right, to be recruited. But at the end of the day, I knew where I wanted to go. And that's where I'm glad I ended up.
Did you have all the hair in high school you had, and like some of the foot and the call and the NFL shots? That's an amazing mane that you had, in that
No,
the
I did.
videos on your website.
I was high and tight in high school, and it's not as intimidating when you're 230 pounds like I was in high school. So, I got two things. I got to college and I got tired because my mom cut my hair my entire life, and then I got to college and I had to pay for it. And I'm like, I don't have this money. Yeah, I was on a full ride scholarship, but I had no extra money. So, and then as the weight went on, I'm like, oh, this kind of sticks. So it's a little more intimidating when you're 325 pounds with that sort of hair.
You put on 100 pounds in college?
Yeah, my last year of high school, my senior year of high school, I was probably 220. So yes, I showed up for. I know they told me after my senior year, you need to come in, you need to eat, you need to come in as heavy as you can. And I chugged like 2 gallons of water before we weighed in my freshman year of college because I just couldn't put weight on. And so I believe I was 239 on the scale that day, just full of water. And yeah, when I left, I was 320, 325. So that's what happens when you get the right eating program and the right strength coach. Chris Doyle was the strength coach there. And, he was very good at his job and a great motivator. He's a very close friend now, but he knew how to get guys strong and fast and put the weight on.
It's funny, man. I was in the war in El Salvador, and I was always about 155, 160. I always wanted to be a 200 pounder, right? And bigger in hell in one of these muscle magazines, there was this gain 30 pounds in 6 months. I'm like, what? And what it was the old football's college diet before, they had supplements and all the other stuff you could take. This was back in the 70s. And it was just an eating plan, like 6 times a day, eggs and hamburgers. And there was nothing about low fat, high carb. None of that. It was just eating. I came out of El Salvador at 195. And everybody's like, yeah, but I had been lifting, right? I mean, we had some time to get to the gym in between doing our things. And I was like, I wonder where this whole program came from. And it was the old football,
Oh, for
coach.
sure. And that's,
Yeah.
that's early 2000s. They told me, right? Like they gave me the protein shakes and said, put them by your bed. When you wake up, chug them, go back to sleep. And then I would, every day my freshman year, I would eat as much as I could at breakfast. And then I would walk to class because I was so full. I couldn't stand on a bus with 50 other people because I hurt so bad. So it was just, yeah, it was calories. It didn't matter. They said, put calories down.
Dude, that's amazing. What did you major in when you were in college?
I got a degree in elementary education. So yeah, I didn't know what I
Nice.
wanted to do, and I loved working with kids and that aspect of it. I don't know now if I could handle being in a classroom with a bunch of kids, but yeah, that was my plan, right? To go to college, get it paid for, and come out and be a teacher.
Yeah. Did you redshirt at all? Or you just it was 4 straight years and then
Nope,
right into the
redshirted.
NFL?
So went in, yep, came in as an athlete, right? They didn't even recruit me as a lineman or a tight end. They just, on my sheet, it was athlete because I was 6'7", broad shoulders, 220 pounds as a senior in high school, and so came in, was a tight end my redshirt year. Then I started playing. I started at tight end my second year, and then 6 games into the season, they moved me to tackle. I just had some injuries, and so from then on, it was tackle in college.
Cool beans. And then you transitioned to guard while you're in the NFL.
Yeah, I played first couple 3 seasons at tackle. Had a different our third staff come in, going into my fourth year, and they moved some stuff around and ended up playing guard the rest of my career, which was probably more my style. It's not finesse in there. You're bashing heads and fighting every play. There's not it's the toughest man wins. So it probably leaned into my mentality.
Yeah, and now we know it's probably the worst position for your brain, because of all the contact. Let's
Uh,
talk about your practice a little bit, man. So it's like, I think back, I mean, what was practice like, back then and in high school? Was it like every day and full contact, or did they, depending on the school, some of the coaches, took it a little bit easier on the physicality of contract, kind of saving it for game day? Like, what kind of football teams you're on in regard to the amount of contact you guys did in practice?
Yeah, I would say in high school we were, we had a lot of contact, but we were also learning to play, and so I don't remember being over the top. I remember days that, maybe we weren't in shoulder pads day after a game, so it wasn't, beat you into the ground type contact, but it was, I remember during the week, right, every day during the week you're hitting. I remember those linebacker drills, and when I was playing linebacker and running through a guy, I mean, I loved it, right? You only know what you know at that point, but I love that stuff, and same in college. My first I'd say 3 years, right? We were building a program. We were 1-10, and Coach Ferentz, his first year was my redshirt year. All right, we were 1-10 and 3-7, right? So we're trying to build they're trying to build a program, and so there was a lot, right? It was 2-a-days, pads every day.
Two
As
a
times,
days.
yeah, as times changed, out of training camp, and as we got older, like they took care of our bodies a little more because one, we were more well conditioned and had built that mentality in the program, but also with the education, I think, of coaches, especially in college, there was days that we were in shells, they called them, the little pad things, so they were taking care of our bodies, and it wasn't a grind you into the ground every day of the year, but that came with the success we had and learning how to practice the right way. And I always remember Coach Ferentz saying that, right? If you learn how to practice the right way without shoulder pads on, we'll do it. And luckily, we figured it out pretty fast.
That's good, man. Hey, you mentioned something that we see a lot, especially with our military guys, which I haven't heard a football player yet say is like, you talk about those tackle drills and how much you loved it, right? Running through another guy. And we talk a lot about military, like we shoot big weapons and you feel that concussive blast come through you. And it's like, yeah, and but you have no idea what that stuff starts to do to your body. So, I mean, back then you were just reveling in the hitting other guys. I mean, I'm a rugby player, got it. But you just have no idea what you're doing to yourself back then.
Yeah, when you're young, it's a badge of honor, right? I remember those drills. As a linebacker, Chad Greenway played in the league for a long time, and we would do this, half line drill, and it was a run play. He knew it, I knew it, right? The entire stadium knew it, right? That was watching practice. And he was coming downhill as hard as he could. He was not reading pass, so he was coming as hard as he could, and I was going to him as hard as I could. And I mean, we'd hit, and I remember the stars, and you were like, "Oh, I got him," right? Because if I saw stars, he saw stars, and so yeah, you're young in that mentality. You have no idea what you're really doing to yourself because you thought, "Oh, I'm the tough guy." Like, yeah, we both get up like stammering, right? And that was job well done, back then.
Yeah, and rugby, my big thing was I didn't see stars, but my shoulders would go numb. If I got somebody really good, like, man, I got him. And I was like, shit, that hurt.
Oh, for sure. And luckily for
Yeah.
us, that's why I wore a neck roll, man. I had a pad inside my shoulder pads tight around my neck because, right, that jolt on your neck would pinch the nerve, right? And so then I'm getting stingers, right? I'm getting that nerve pinch down my arm. You can't feel your arm. So you're doing everything you can because, like, I'm not going to stop putting my head in there because that's how you rock a guy. That's how you get a guy on his heels. So yeah, we weren't super smart back then.
Ah, see, back then. Yeah, no, that's amazing, man. All right, so then you get picked up by the Raiders, who where were they in they were still in Oakland at that time?
Yeah, my entire career there in Oakland. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it's a tough neighborhood out there, man.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
I love the area, right? I think there was a cool mystique about, it was in it was in Oakland, right? It was in the hood, right? But
Mhm.
the fan base was amazing. It was such a big part. It's all gone now, but it was such a big part of that town, right? The A's were there, the Warriors, and now sadly those are all gone. But yeah, it was awesome. It was cool to go in the see the people in the black hole, and they had a very strong fan base. And unfortunately, there was a lot of turnover in coaches and wasn't a ton of winning, or hasn't been for a stretch. But it was still great to do what we got to do and be in front of those people.
Yeah, well, what Brady's a part owner in the team now, I guess, something like that, and yeah,
Yeah, they're
yeah,
trying.
I think he was even made a comment about coming back to play or something like that. I don't know, man. I mean,
That's funny.
that's good, man. So during this time, I was watching the video on your website. I mean, you were in some, I mean, it's you're down there in the grinder, right, and you're loving it the whole 9 yards. When did you start noticing that football was taking a toll on your attitude, your demeanor, your life in general?
I think, it was, obviously the first year it was bliss, right? I mean, I think we were 4-12 the first year, but it was just every day. I'm like, man, I get paid to do this, right? Like walked out in a snowstorm in Denver, a cut off shirt, right? Nuking snow. And I'm thinking, this is the best thing ever, right? We get to get paid to do this. And, as the years went on, obviously, winning helps take care of some of that stuff. And there wasn't a ton of that going on. So 2, 3, 4 years in, right, is when I started noticing, right? Initially, I thought it was just the competitor in me, right? You want to be on a winning team. You want to have a chance to go to the playoffs to, maybe earn a chance to a Super Bowl. And those things weren't happening in the organization. And then I had been in college, right? I had some injuries, but I never missed anything, right? I never barely missed practice, never missed games, right? And as you get older, your body starts breaking down. So, fourth year and fifth year, having some injuries, missing a game because of some injuries, having some surgeries. I had shattered my fibula, I had my back fused. That's when I noticed physically, things where I was starting to slow down. And with that brought my attitude and how I was, this point now I have a young child at home, right? And I noticed my trigger getting, triggered very quickly and very aggressively for reasons it shouldn't. And just the anger, right? And I thought it was just part of caring about what you do, wanting to be successful, wanting your team to be successful. But then getting into year 7, 8, it was when I really noticed the brain stuff, right? Where I was, getting those bell rungs, they weren't fun anymore, right? So I'm staggering off the field, can't remember like what we're supposed to be doing. And it didn't go away. The fun stars that went away when you're young, you thought that was cool. But when it stuck with you and you're sitting on the sideline staring into the ground, wondering, when you're going to be able to get clear vision again, then I knew something was going on, and it was happening more regularly and easier. Right? This was back when you could still chop block guys. So I'm going downfield, putting a guy on the ground, but my helmet, you put your helmet through their knee. That's how you get them on the ground, and I do that, and that little contact, right, would send me into dizziness and stars. And so the more that happened, I was like, oh, there's something definitely going on. And I just thought it was age and part of playing football for that long.
And talk a little bit about, we talk to players I don't have the equivalent. This maybe on a rugby team a little bit, but the stress that you're under to keep playing, to keep your position on the team. I mean, you got new guys showing up every time. Everybody wants your job. And that don't help, right? I mean, so can you give us a little light on that? The stress that these players are under just to, I need this job now, man. I got I got a family. I got to pay bills. I got to, and then you combine that with, well, we didn't do that well this year because everybody does want to win. There's a lot of stress there that we don't see as the fans, from our perspective.
For sure. And I mean, that someone, a wise veteran once told me, right? The first day you walk in the door, they're looking to replace you, right? Because there's someone younger, there's someone better, right? That's the reality of a business, right? It is a
Yeah.
multi-billion-dollar business. Guys are making a lot of money. It's a lot more money now. But that, that stress, one, it's competitors, they put that on themselves, right? So I think that's part of who we are. And that's how you get to a high level of anything is you put that stress on yourself, right? So people can say everything they want. The fans can, the organization, they can say whatever they want about you, but you put more stress on yourself to be great because that's what a competitor does at a high level. And then as time goes on, it wears on you, right? Because that was the instance in Seattle. Got a change of scenery after I left Oakland, right? Get into camp, have an injury, have surgery. I was making pretty good money, right? The writing's on the wall. I know this is a business. So then I'm coming back too early. You put the stress on yourself. And that was just my mentality. Tough guy, probably came back 2-3 weeks too early, right? Didn't play great, right? That's the reality of it, right? And so now they're like, oh, what's going on? Well, you also asked me to come back. You need me, right? But I'm not at 100%. Yes, my what I'm doing is not to my normal standard, and it wears on you, right? Because as you get those chinks in your armor, right? It's also your ego that, right? You've done it for so long at a high level, right? And then now these little chinks start showing up, and it's mentally that's tough as any competitor, right? No, there's not too many jobs in the world that you're going to be as good as you were, in your early 20s or teens as you were in your mid 30s, right? Especially in football. And so that's a big part of it, the mental game, and we put a lot of that on ourselves, but it's also just part of the business because it is. There's always someone younger and faster and stronger, and or gets paid less, right? That was some of the stuff too. Like, oh, why do we got to pay this guy all this money when we can pay much less for this guy who, that's the business side of it.
In football, well, like any sports, well, it's one of those games where, usually in an occupation, you get better as you get older, but it's almost impossible to do that given the physiological toil that you take on the field and in contact.
It is. And you see these guys that play 15, 20 years, right? Especially as a lineman, like that's few and far between because the toll it takes on you. And God bless those guys that don't ever have any injuries and just they look just as good in year 12 as they did in year 4. But it is the toll of our position, especially, right? There's only so much your body can handle, and you're going to lose strength, right? I was as strong as I ever was late in college, early in the league, right? Was as strong, and your body just can't do that, right? Things are breaking down. My shoulder, couldn't lift my arm because my shoulder was so bad. I needed it replaced, and which I've had since then, right? So there's those things that you just can't do what you did when you're younger, especially in this sport.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I mean, and you watch it because, like, I was a big Vince Wilfork fan, right? I love Vince, man. I just love watching it. Me and my son used to wear 75. As a matter of fact, he tried so hard to get 75 on the football team because he was a right side or blind side. The guard would have. I should have learned my positions, but he got 74. So that's like, all right, that's all right. It's our number, man. He tried for 75, but you can see Vince over the years. It's like, come on, stay in there because you want to see your favorite players every year. But then, it's just not going to happen, man.
Yeah.
It's part of the game. Well, during these times, I mean, are you able to so in the military, when we start struggling, we don't talk. We don't talk to each other. We don't talk about it because, we want to stay on the A team. We want to keep jumping out of planes. In football, you kind of want to stay on the team. So I would expect that when you start struggling, it's something that you internalize, well, I mean, unless you, talk to the spouse or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just who we are. That's our mentality. You deal with it yourself. Very similar to, the military guys. It's you deal with it, right? There's not, one, you don't think anybody cares, and two, it's going to show weakness, right? And then it's like, well, wait, if they take that as weakness, maybe I'll lose my job, or don't think they can trust me, or whatever it is. So it's, as time goes on, obviously now that we're older and wiser, we know that's not the case. But when you're that age, right, you pile stuff on top of it, and then to get those thoughts to go away or those feelings, right, then you go put 15, 20 beers on top of it, right, because that helps, and just
Yeah.
leads down a road of coping that's not super healthy.
No, it's and being vulnerable. I mean, as much as we know as older gentlemen now that being vulnerable is actually kind of cool, you're not going to do that in the NFL, man. I mean, it's just the nature of the game. And I mean, I'm hoping like the military that they, the military's actually adapting. I mean, you can actually take a knee now. You can say, hey man, I've had enough. there's a place you can go for 6 to 8 weeks. Back when I was, when I was in, you would do it.
Yeah.
But now, again, so hopefully there's that space for players. And I know that you're helping to kind of create a lot of that space. So talk to us about your journey from, the towards the end of the NFL career. I guess, according to the video, there was, quite a few struggles that you were personally going through. What got you to point to say, just like, you fix yourself you become that kick-ass football player. You said, you know what, I'm going to fix myself as a human being.
Yeah, I think part of it is the mentality, right? The way I was raised, the way my parents raised me, and then that mentality of how I became successful was to never give up, no matter how bad things got at certain points. It's like, all right, go back to work, fix this. And so after my career, right, things started to spiral, and yeah, I wanted to be healthy, but I was also dealing with being done with my sport, right? The identity of who I was all these years. That's who I was, and now I'm sitting at home watching my ex teammates play. They're at work. I'm at home all day. And now I'm around my family all day. I've got young kids and all the stuff my wife did all the time, right? The dealing with the kids crying. And now I'm sitting at home trying to deal with that on top of all these other emotions. And then dealing with that, not only the identity part of it and figuring out, who am I or what's next. Now you are able to really sit and deal with the bad things, right? Unfortunately, right? So now you're not sleeping, or you're having suicide nightmares, or all these things, and now you have to deal with it. Where before it's like, I don't have time to do this. I don't, yeah, I had a bad night's sleep, or I had a, I I'm depressed or whatever. I got to go to work. Like, I got to work, and you have an environment that you can get that stuff out, right? Because you go on the practice field, you're having a crappy day, you start a fight. Like, that's what we used to do, right? Like, someone hit you, went too fast in a drill they weren't supposed to, grab the face mask and pull it up and try and break their chin, right? That's like, you guys, I'm sure that's are the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, it got to a point for me when, things got really bad. And luckily, I had a brain scan for my workers' comp case, and it showed how much damage I did have. So for me, it was an answer, because to that point, sounds, kind of stupid of me, but I thought I was just losing my mind. I hadn't really thought about, oh man, my brain's messed up. I'm like, I'm literally losing my mind. If that's possible, which I never believed in that, but I really think, I didn't know if I was bipolar or what it was. And so to see that brain scan, and that neurologist telling me, like, hey, these areas affect these different things, and this all makes sense, right? When I was talking to him before this brain scan of my impulse control and all the rage and all this stuff, and then he points out, well, this is what the brain controls. And so for me, it was that moment, all right, let's fix this. And I remember saying that, I was like, so where do I go from here? And he said, if you do nothing, unfortunately, with the amount of damage you have, you will probably be a statistic. Right. And I knew what that meant. My wife didn't, because she's like, well, what does that mean? Right. And he said, well, this leads to, very bad things, and typically leads to suicide. Like, this is CTE. And so that's the reality of it. Because I had told him, I wanted to be straight with, don't give me doctor talk, because I was just in a bad place. And I said, I don't want the BS doctor talk. Tell me what's going on. And he was very upfront about it. And so from that point on, I'm like, all right, let's fix this, right? What can I do? And so from that point on, I decided that I'm going to do everything I could to help with this. And so from that meeting, I started doing hyperbaric chamber, right? Anything they told me to do, I did, right? They told me I'm a guy that should be in a hyperbaric chamber every day for the rest of my life with the amount of damage I have. And so I rented one for a month, was in it for 2 hours a day, and then ended up buying one, luckily, through my retirement stuff. So I'm in a hyperbaric chamber. I'm doing all the therapies and IVs and light therapy and all these different things to just try and help, right? Because I wanted to be around my family. I wanted to be healthy. And I was aware that something was going on. And so that kept me motivated to, hey, I want to fix this. And luckily, I have a very strong relationship with my wife, right? We dated in college. So she knew me for a very long time, knew this angry, suicidal, guy that sat in a chair in the side of the living room, just with his days in his face, wasn't the guy that she knew earlier, right? So she knew it wasn't just me. There was something going on. And so that kept me motivated to keep working. And that's what I did. I did everything they said for, probably almost 2 years, trying to, and it was marginally better. And so then again, next thing, right? What else can I try? Right. And then that's what led me to hearing a podcast, listened to military podcast at the point, and I heard Marcus Amber Capone from Vets on Marcus Luttrell's podcast, and he was talking about all the things that I was living and how he found healing through psychedelic assisted therapy with Ibogaine. And so to me, it was another thing. All right, let's go after this. That maybe this can help. And so that's just the continual motivation to keep searching till I found something.
And let's talk about it for a second because, like, when my son left me, we had no clue. All right. And through the grace of God and, and how I'm, still here and the knowledge that I've gained, when you find that there's an answer, right, to like why, whether it's, now understanding that my son played too much contact sports and he started too early and his brain had all the damage, all the indicators. And I did not, I can say like, we don't know. And that's beside the point. Or for you with a brain scan to be able to look at that and go, I mean, there must have been a huge light bulb that went off in your head when it's like, wow, this makes sense. And to have that understanding, to have that connection, and now know that you just have a problem to solve. How empowering was that as, coming out of, being in a dark place, not having a clue, just feeling like crap every day, because we'll talk about transition. I mean, from the military or from the, sports, when you're an elite, when you're badass at something, transition is one of the most scariest things on your horizon, man. You have no idea what you're going to do. You have no idea what's going to happen. But then to go into that period with struggling from, whether you're in the military, you got, with mental health issues and then not having a reason for that. I mean, gosh, I mean, that must have been a game changer for you for that nerd. And find a neurologist that understood enough about the brain and the what football does to it to be able to recommend at least something to get going. I mean, most NFL players are still trying to find that at this time.
Yeah, I think it was two things. I think, it got to a point where I wasn't telling, right, like your son, I wasn't telling anybody. Yes, my wife could see me on a daily basis that I was struggling, that I was, coping with alcohol, too much. There were signs, but she did not know because I didn't share about the dark stuff, right? The suicidal nightmares, and then the ideation, right? The driving home from taking the kids to soccer practice, thinking, oh, if I just pull over on the freeway in front of this oncoming car, right, then it would look like an accident. And so when I finally broke down and shared that with her, right, and she knew the magnitude of what was going on, and that was for me shortly before my brain scan. And then sitting in this room with, after I went and got the scan, I went by myself, did that, and they said, hey, you need to come in and you should probably bring your wife. And so we go in.
It's like, oh God.
Yeah, so I knew something was wrong, right?
Right.
I could read the room. And so like you said, when they put that scan up, right, the first thing they did, I'll never forget it, they put the scan up of a normal healthy, I think I was 35 years old at that time or whatever I was, a normal healthy 35-year-old brain, right? And he's like, this is what it is, this is what it looks like, looks at this, look at this nice smooth edges, blah blah blah. And then he put mine up, and I remember, first of all, in shock, right? Looking at it, looks like someone taking a baseball bat to it. And then, like you said, I started laughing, right? I literally started laughing. And my wife turned to me. I mean, she's got tears running down her face. She turned to me and she was pissed. She looked at me and she said, what in the fuck are you laughing about? And I said, I'm not crazy. That's why I'm laughing. There's a
No
reason.
wonder I'm a mess.
Yes. And so, like you said, for me, it was something tangible that was giving me an answer to what was going on. So to me, it's like, yes, okay, great, let's go. What's from here? Like, okay, get over it. Yeah, I got brain damage. Like, it is what it
What do I
is.
do now?
What do we do now? And so, yes, it was very eye opening for me. And she got to that point, over time. But yeah, initially because I was like, I'm not crazy. I just kept saying, I'm not crazy. Like there's
God.
a tangible thing to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I mean, it was crazy because I ended up getting hospitalized. And all I knew is, man, I want to beat up everybody. I'm not a good husband. Drinking way too much. Of course, I've lost my son. I'm blaming it all on that. And then as I got smarter, I'm like, whoa. I said, dude, I think I've I've got my brain's fucked up. And I go to the VA and I educate them. I have to educate them because they're not like the end. They don't even want to talk about this stuff. Educate them. And the guy goes, "Hey, do you got any scars?" I go, because he talked to me all this, I got shot in the face. I'll say, "So you got any scars?" Well, I mean, the bullet fragments are gone. I got shot in a training accident. I go, "Come look at my eyebrows." And he comes up, he goes, "What the hell have you been doing?" Is they're all scar tissue. I go, "I'm a tight head prop, bro. I played all Army rugby, semi-pro ball. I played until I was 58. He goes, "Yeah, you're a mess." I'm like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm all happy, right?" I'm like, "Oh my God, really? All right." Now I think I know what I got to do. So, all right. So you go, obviously you went to Ambia, right?
I did. My
When
initial treatment was at the Mission Within, because I went through Vet, so I'd reached out to Marcus Neighbor Capone at
oh,
Vet,
okay,
Vet
good.
Solutions. Yep, because I
Uh-huh.
was just like, hey, there's no way they'll call me back. I'm not a veteran. And lo and behold, the next day they called me, and so they invited me through their program. So I was lucky enough to go with your community, with the veteran community, and through Vets. And so my initial 2021, my first Ibogaine treatment was with the Mission Within, was who they were using. And then since then has been Ambio because I continue to go back through with my veteran buddies.
Oh, so you've been back.
I have. So I went in 2021, had a life changing experience, came home a completely different human being, right? Brain fog gone, ringing in my ears gone, rage, depression, all that stuff gone. And uh, I bought into the aftercare, all the stuff. Was in that cloud for months, right? Nothing bothered me. I was super social, just a different, as my wife said it, I was a different human being. And then as time went on, getting closer to a year out, I started to regress, right? It was COVID, right? I remember the first time I had a suicidal nightmare was, I'd had COVID real bad and I took the whatever the COVID medicine was. And, one of the warnings was, I mean, it may give you a metallic taste in your mouth. And I remember waking up, clenching my throat because I thought I had a gun in my mouth, right? From the taste of that medicine, what
Yeah.
it did. And so those things started to pop back in. And so, 2 years later, so in 2023, I went back, this time to Ambio, did another round of it. And at that point, I was scared along with some of my veteran buddies who I originally went with. We were like, hey, we're guys that need it every year. We waited too long. So we signed up. We walked in the door in 2023 and got on the calendar for 24. We're just like, we're the guys that need it. And so went through in 23, came out again, very eye-opening experience, very healing, not only to the brain but emotionally. And then 2024 shows up and I booked it and I'm like, well, I'm going. You don't bail on it, but it was for growth. It was it had been
Yeah.
good. All the dark stuff had gone away. I thought my brain was functioning very well, but I'm like, man, it's only going to help. And so went back in 24 for the third time. And that time the medicine told me is, it'll tell you things, kind of told me, hey, that's enough, right? Time to go home. And so since then I've been, just using all the tools that I learned throughout this process to continue to keep growing, doing things to keep healing my brain. And then also brought me to the point where, I'm functioning as a human being, as a father, as a husband, and start my foundation to help other guys because I can see, I've lived through what this medicine can do for you. And there's too many guys in our community like yours that are having major issues and they're just suffering in silence by themselves at home.
I met a lot of them too, man. And it's funny when I was in there in Ibogaine, and I've done every psychedelic known to mankind, and I do it for research. Right, at first it was ketamine. I needed it bad because I was in a bad place. And then I did ayahuasca, which was like it's the equivalent of Ibogaine. But I got a lot of the stuff out. I went to Ibogaine just to do research. I didn't think I needed it, and guess what? They said, "You're coming back." I go, "I am not going through this again," because it got all of it out of
Yeah.
me. But at the same time, it is such, and I don't know, how you would like to explain this, but I tell people, look, Ibogaine and these psychedelics do crazy, crazy powerful things with our brains from a neuroplastic perspective. I mean, there is profound healing. If you look at the original study, all these veterans with big black marks, just like football players in their brains, they come back a week later, poof, like they're gone. You can't make this stuff up. But the spiritual side of this, the growth, it's like this amazing perk that we get when you start unloading, your trauma. And you come out feeling no, it's not just like you're high, like you're feeling like you feel profoundly changed as a human being. My wife calls me Bruce 4.0. I mean, that's how much I had to change. But, and it's so, I mean, if you want to comment on that, I mean, because people do ask and like, what's it like? It's like, and it's like, well, I mean,
Yeah,
everybody has their own journey,
for sure. And I think, like you said, I think in 2021, it was still fairly new, right? I believe vets had put through a couple hundred veterans at that point. Right now, they're at a few thousand. But there wasn't the study out yet. But so for me, it was like, yes, it wasn't like, oh, I came home high. I was like, there's something, it did something to my brain, right? And it unloaded all this trauma, all this hate, self hate. It got rid of my ego, the 5-MeO DMT. Like I had an ego release, and that, I'd heard about it, but I didn't believe in it until it happened. So the spiritual side of it, absolutely. And I knew something was going on because of the brain fog was gone, right? Like, I mean, I was super clear thinking and super energetic and bright eyed. My wife even said it when I got back to San Diego. She said, your eyes look alive again. Like they had looked dead for so long now. Like you have life in your eyes. And so as
Wow.
time went on, right, from that point on, and in the Stanford study, like there is a scientific part of this, right? I believe it is equally important, the spiritual side of it and the scientific side, but you can't have one without the other, in my opinion. But to see the scientific side of it and what they are finding on those studies, what it's doing, like you said, to the neuroplasticity, you know, new white brain matter. These are scientific facts that they are seeing and studying, and then add that to the unloading of all the spiritual stuff. Right, it is a massive combo of relief and growth for everyone who does it.
So let's talk about, obviously you were called, to help others. So let's talk about that. I mean, what do you have going on right now? Because I think you're very much aware as I am. I mean, I don't have a whole bunch of NFL friends, but all of them have stories similar to yours, especially the linemen. And some of them haven't. I mean, well, actually, all of them haven't gone. I've been talking to them. They haven't gone your route yet. But let's talk about that because there's, whether, football's football. And I don't want to talk about the NFL or, because we have the same problems in rugby, wrestling, soccer, lacrosse. I mean, this is a contact sports issue. This is not an NFL issue, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, there's not a lot of players that do speak about this. And there's, whatever reasons for that. But obviously there's a need and you feel that. So, what are you doing to address that? Because it's there needs to be more of it. That's for sure.
Yeah, and so after my healing, right, after going through this couple year process, right, a couple treatments, and then, I remember sitting there, and the first time I opened up to my very close friends, right, I hadn't really told anybody that I did this, right, or I was a changed person, but now all of a sudden I'm reaching out to some of my old friends who I'd ghosted for 5 or 10 years, right, and I remember sitting with my college roommates, best friends, back at a game at the University of Iowa, and just like, hey, this is what I did. This is what happened. This is where I've been. And it just felt good to talk about it, right? Because we never talked about it. And that's what the medicine did too, is open you up to be like, hey, this is okay to talk about. And then so I remember after from that point on, guys, them reaching out and be like, hey, thanks for opening up about that. And I had similar experience with this, right? And that wanted me to help others. And just the profound healing that all of that treatment that Ibogaine brought, I was like, guys got to know about this, right? Because I knew of guys, right? I knew of the old angry, I thought they're just like me, the old angry ex NFL players or pro athletes. I was like, there is help for these guys. And so that's what led me to start Athletes for Care, because I'm like, this needs to be talked about. This is especially as the studies and everything came out, I'm like, this is a real thing. And I don't know why, especially our veterans, but why any of us have to travel to Mexico to do this. Why is this not a medicine we can use? And so starting Athletes for Care was just, as part of my motivation was doing what, and I keep mentioning them, but that's the people that took my phone call, Mark Snamber Capone, right? What they did for their veteran community. And there's tons of other people doing it for the veterans and for other communities. But what they did for me, they picked up the phone, literally saved my life, right? Because if they hadn't picked up the phone and I hadn't learned about that, the reality is I probably wouldn't be here. And it's hard to say that, but that's the truth. And so I wanted to do that for athletes because I started to see guys struggling and people reaching out. And then when I started the foundation, right, the influx of calls of people like, oh, thanks for talking about this. I thought it was just me. And so that's my real reason, the reason I do this, and to just help make, you know, people better, right? It's not just about athletes, not just about football players, right? I'm talking to college kids. We're talking to, anyone, any contact sport, right? It's education is a big part of it. And that's no one's fault, right? But, we have a lot more education now than we did 25 years ago, right?
Amen.
It's just like our health stuff, right? And eating, right? I know a lot more now about what I need to put in my body or what my kids, as much as I drive them crazy. I know a lot more, at 45 than I did at 16 when I was eating, Cinnabons and a quart of chocolate milk for breakfast, right? Like is this going to fuel you or not? So I think the education part of it is people just understanding what it can do. And then guys knowing they don't have to suffer and just being better human beings, right? I don't want to see, the news headlines of, someone, killing their neighbors or all these bad things that you see from former athletes that I think some of the normal fans are like, oh, what is wrong with this guy? This guy, right? Why is he doing this? He played in the league and he turns into this terrible human being. They're not terrible human beings, right? We have damage that alter our thought process and our actions. And so to be able to help those guys and not see another headline of a guy that cause of death unknown. Well, I can probably guess and be 90% of the time right. It was suicide, right? There's one the other day I saw and I'm like, oh, no cause of death. And, I'm waiting to hear what it was. It was a former NFL guy, and I'd be willing to bet. I don't know. But first thing my head goes to is was more than likely suicide because we're all dealing with this damage and the what we did to ourselves playing this game we love.
And you can't unsee it. And what's disturbing is that for me, is that when I look at like there's been a rash of suicides in the collegiate level this year in the last 18 months, right? There's been three, and then when you three young men that I know, and there's probably been, well, there's, but these are the headliners. And then when you talk to the folks that knew them, these were amazing human beings. And what bothers me, Robert, is just the loss. Okay, we're not losing when we talk folks like, Junior Seau and Dwight Evans and all, and whether they're, whether they made it to the Super Bowl or like you grounded out, right, in the league for years, or maybe even make it to the NFL, but they were in Pop Warner all the way through high school. And, I'm dealing with a mom right now. She was just on my last podcast. Kids started playing lacrosse at 6. It was basically on the junior national team at 14. And then he's being, institutionalized, medicated, and then allowed to keep playing contact sports because it's education. And we have to let the fans know that, hey, you know, this is, football doesn't do this. I mean, these are not bad guys. These are guys that are doing not right things because they're not right. They're hurt, they're injured, and we gotta fix that. So I think, what bothers me now is we're starting to see the identification of what we call traumatic encephalopathy syndrome, which is the in vivo diagnosis of CTE, earlier and early. Like my son, right? He had all the biomarkers, didn't have CTE, but had all the damage. He just wasn't old enough, right? And then and we've got to get ahead of this, got to get ahead of this. And I was, what are your thoughts on, look, we all love football, man, right? And this is, there's no way in shape and form that anybody wants. I mean, I love rugby, man. Smacking another dude and then drinking a beer with him afterwards was the most fun I ever had in my life. Like, actually, when my son died, it was my rugby buddies that showed up. Not my Green Beret friends, right? My rugby buddies drove across the country and showed up, for me because he knew them, right? I mean, and they knew me, right? And they were there. It's sports, man. It's they're just like an A team, man. My boys are at war. They're all over the place, right? Got it. But how do we repair this? I mean, because we're going to have contact sports, but we have to be, it has to be safer. And we do know that everything that you and my son went through, your friends, is all from repetitive ed impacts. And you can't stop having them in a game like football, but we can make it safer. You have any thoughts on that as we move forward? Because we are talking lives here. and
Yeah,
marriages and all kinds of stuff.
it is. It's hard, right? Because football is going nowhere, nor do I want it to, right? This is not a
Yeah.
crusade against contact sports or the NFL or anything. Like the sick part of me is I'd go do it all over again the same way I did it, right? And come out with the same, because I learned so much from it. Now, I'm much smarter, right? I think the education part of it, yes, there's still the old school hard ass coaches that don't care and grind you into the ground. Luckily, I didn't have those, especially in college. Coach Ferentz, Chris Doyle, the guys I played for in college, they, even 20 years, that was 25 years ago, right? They were getting more education of how we take care of ourselves and if we were smart enough to open up about getting our bell rung, like, hey, let's take a break, let's get it checked out, right? So I think it's education, and then like every sport, everyone's continuing to evolve, right? You can't, it's like even with my own kids, right? I can't put my son who's 10, in a bubble, right? And send him out into the world, right? You're going to learn some of these things, but we're much smarter now. I'm a smarter as a parent, right? He's going to start Pop Warner this year. I'm letting him start out doing practice, right? Which they're not even in helmets and pads yet. I'm going to let him start out. He just started doing drills. He's going to be 11 here next week, right? I don't know if I'll let him put a helmet on, but I'm going to let him go experience and get in a stance and come out and hit a bag, right? But I'm also educated to, I know when I'm going to say, hey, this is enough. You're not doing this. And unfortunately for all of this, right, everyone's different. So some people are blown away that everything I went through, that they're blown away that I would let my son play football, right? And I understand their feeling, but I also know how much stuff I learned from being a football player, being a high level athlete, from just learning a craft. And the big thing is, you don't know from one, because I had problems doesn't mean my son is going to. Now, I don't want him out there beating his head against the wall for the next 10 years, right? Like, he's young, we're gonna ease into this, right? You may not, I've told him, you may not even get a helmet. You might just get to go run around, do these skills and drills, and that might be it for a few more years. But it's also, look at Junior Seau, right? Played 15 years, right? There was a kid from Iowa, born and raised in Iowa, played at Iowa, played in the league for 2 or 3 years. And if I'm not incorrect, he had worse CTE after his suicide, um, or after his death, than they found in Junior Seau. So it doesn't matter, right? It's not a, a cut and dry equation, right? Oh, you play this many years, you're going to get it, right? Like you said, right? With your son, right? You have no idea. His was advanced, right? It was earlier in life. Yes, maybe too much contact sport, but it was also probably his brain chemistry, or just, so I don't think there's one answer. But I think if the more educated we are, right, there's so many more things of hydrating, and when you do get your bell rung, right, like, let's treat it. Let's not like celebrate it, let's actually treat it for what it is, and help the brain heal. And then all these other things, as you get to our age, like, there's these other modalities that help us heal drastically. And so we need to, just like the executive order that was just signed, we need to study these things, because this is something, right? The inflammation alone on a concussion, right? Ibogaine takes that inflammation out. So there's one reason right there that, you know, not saying it'll happen, but down the road, is that something that, players, while they're playing, should be taking some sort of Ibogaine to get the inflammation down. It's better than the other stuff they're given now. So I just think it's continued education, studies, and then people like us talking.
No, and that's good. I mean, like, we're big proponents of flag till 14. Why? Because this part of the brain, your son's brain right now, has no myelin in it. At it. It's the last part of the brain to develop. And this part of the brain is the most important, the CEO of the brain. And that's what, after reading, hundreds of research papers, that's the science, is that, okay, that, and this is my position, this is your son. But we do know now that if we reduce the contact, it is all about the amount of contact that we have that impacts our brain. And that's why you don't see kickers going to get Ibogaine, right? You don't see quarterbacks going to get Ibogaine, right? That much, right? Because they don't have the accumulation, right? So, the thing is, as we get more educated about the brain, and we know that a lot of the contact is, to your point, a lot of the Ivy leagues and the NFL, don't do contact during the season anymore. If we took the contact out of practice, we take 60 to 80% of the exposure away from the brain. and we start, making that, a little bit safer. And I think that, as we evolve, we're seeing the NFL. I mean, when you start shortening the kickoff distance, right, and you start putting cushions, the mattresses on people's helmets, you kind of think you're admitting we got an issue here, right? You're not saying it, right, but you're saying, hey, we got a problem here, and so I think that over time, we will find that balance, right, where football can be played safer. And because we're eliminating all the unnecessary hits as much as possible, you still got to leave it on the field. You still got to, I mean, you can't take it away from game day. It's just like veterans go to Super Bowl combat, right? We train for combat, right? And so you got to leave it on the field no matter what happens, right? But, do you have to leave it on the field every day in practice, right? And it's probably a big no on that one, too. So, like you said, people are coming around. And I think to your point, that the football, like every sport, is evolving as we understand this. And I think over time, the football, all the major leagues are understanding there's a big liability issue here as this becomes more and more scientifically proven that they need to get ahead of it. And that's why, we're excited to see flag football come out and me personally, because I just think that, it's safe. Yeah. I mean, you can't, the kids are going to, you got cleat lock. They're going to bang their head on, they're going to run into each other. Concussions are those are accidents to me, but the intentional hitting, but,
Absolutely.
yeah, I
And
mean,
if you go, I see in some of these, I was watching the last couple of years, I've just gone and watched, right? Watched this Pop Warner team, right? Because I was like, what are they doing to these kids, right? Because I'm like you, I know too much, right? And you see, right, in this one instance, a local spot here, right? They have helmets and pads on the U14 group, right? Like you said. And they're hitting bags, right? They're hitting the soft cushion bags. They're not. And I was blown away. I'm like, oh man, the old school hard ass mentality. Like these guys, and this is one instance, they get it. These kids, I never once saw them banging on each other. And I'm like, well, this is great, right? This is teaching the kids the right way to do it, right? Yes, they're still banging against the pad, but this is not helmet to helmet. All right. And so, as you said, I think everyone's growing. Hopefully, everyone is. And the more we can do to alleviate some of that, like you said, especially at the younger age, right? It's gonna help those kids as they get older and help everyone else see that it can be done without it.
Oh, absolutely. And then you start talking about, parents like me that allowed my son to play back to back to back contact sports and activities. And in the end, that was also a very significant, I mean, from football to wrestling to snowboarding. And I think as we get older, it was like, all right, look, you can pick one. All right. And I'm going to make sure, like you're doing right now, Robert, for you to go there and watch that team. And if they're just hitting pads, they're doing skills and drills all the time, they can wear helmets all day long. They'll get a less of a concussion if they fall on the ground, right? But you're doing your job as a parent, okay? Because if that guy is doing two-ups or if he's having these kids hit their heads, it's just unnecessary. It's not worth it. But we are seeing this, start to come around as we do get, smarter. And I think, it is, we are starting to slowly see that evolution of any contact sports towards being a safer activity for our kids, which they deserve, right? I mean, my boy should be. I didn't have the education, but you just can't play. I mean, like the mom that was on today, the kid played travel lacrosse all year, 12 months a year. The kid's got to have the brain. NFL players, man. When you're done with that season, you don't be riding BMX bikes and all that stuff, and just eat McDonald's until you pick it back up in training camp, right? Take care of the brain,
Right.
and we're starting to understand that, man. So, but as we get ready to close, Robert, tell us about your foundation. This is amazing, man. The fact that you're giving back, you're helping out your bros. We want to know, how to find people and send them to you. So, what's going on with the foundation? This is, I want you to take as much time as you want. Talk about the foundation, talk about what you've got going on, events, anything you need, man. Go ahead and lay it on the audience right now.
Yeah, no, so it's Athletes for Care. You can go to the website athletesforcare.org, right? There's resources. We get a ton of outreach from different athletes and all people, but obviously we're more towards the athlete community because of what I did, obviously. But we just wanted the care. The care is community advocacy, research, and education, right? So we're a new organization, but we have talked to a ton of guys, and I've been a part of the Texas Ibogaine initiative. I'm an ambassador for the Americans for Ibogaine, doing lots of different things, being an advocate, speaking about, Ibogaine specifically, but also mental health. And so check out our website, right? People can reach out through there. We've helped facilitate a couple handfuls of athletes going down and actually getting treatment, right? Because they've learned that there is a way to heal. And so just continue to build. So if you're interested in supporting, right, you can donate on the website. Like all this stuff takes funds to run and to help guys, right? Not everyone, right? One of the things that we're trying to get rid of is the fact that every guy that played in the NFL or professional sports has, a ton of money or any money for that, right? We're talking with
Oh,
pro skiers and MMA guys and guys that don't, weren't lucky like the NFL guys are now, making 5, 10, 15, 20,
bank.
$30,000 a year, So
Yeah.
I think that's some of society's like, well, what are these guys? Someone said that to me once. What do you need to raise money for? You just pay for all these guys to do it. And I was like, it's not that simple, right? There's guys with different situations, and so, donate, support that way. And yeah, we're continuing to grow, help, obviously educate. I think is the big part. I believe the veteran community has done a great job of educating, their people. Tons of you veterans have gone through, done these things, found healing. The sports community needs to be better educated to know there's an option, and to be able to talk about it, like be more open to talking about it. And so we're continually working on that. We did a great event this last Super Bowl. We're doing it again next Super Bowl we partnered with DAV, with Disabled American Veterans, put on a flag football game before the Super Bowl. We're doing it in LA next year. Had a bunch of disabled veterans out, some NFL alum and other celebrities playing flag football. Again, building that community, raising awareness, right? Because a lot like the crossover in the community of losing your identity and all those things.
Oh,
So we're just trying to do all those things with this organization, and got some fundraisers coming up and different things that you can help support and just help spread the word, and send people our way that that are struggling, your friends that you see that are isolating, or you can tell. I can talk to guys now that I'm clear headed and that brain fog's gone and all these things. I can talk to a guy, and I'll tell my wife, oh, he needs Ibogaine, or he needs help, because you can tell it, right? Stone
dude.
sober, and
Yeah.
he's stammering, or you can see his eyes track, right? We're more educated. I can see when a guy's not only struggling, but when he's having cognitive effects to what he did to himself during his pro career. And so it's just,
Yeah.
talk to someone, right? Pass these things along to people that that are struggling, right? And sometimes it's just hearing a story, right? It was me hearing that story on the Team Never Quit podcast of Marcus and Amber that gave me hope, right? So pass it along, and that's what's led to a ton of people reaching out to us and us helping facilitate them find some healing.
Robert, I we're gonna get the word out, man, because I'll tell you, if there's any community, the veterans, we were able to take advantage of the passion for, veterans and, fighting wars. And we've got a lot of carnage out there. We've lost a lot of boys and girls. And there is this, mentality that anybody that's made it to the NFL has got, lives in a gold-plated house and has made all kinds of banks. And we both know that that is far, far from the truth. And so, yet, I don't think there's another population in this country that needs it more because of the nature of the game than, football players. And I'll throw ruggers in there as well. But, people they don't start playing rugby at 6 and then, play it for 20 something years, right? This is a unique issue that needs a lot of attention. And I thank you so much for bringing it to you. And you can count on us to be, an advocate, sponsor. We'll throw that stuff all over the place for you because you're doing amazing things. And I want to thank you so much for what you're doing, sir.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it, Bruce. It's been an honor to be on here, and we like, I feel for what you went through, but look what you're doing now. Look what we're doing, right? So the fact that you got through it with your son, and you're bringing good to others because of it. It's a terrible tragedy, but the things that we can do now, that's our purpose. I truly believe that, and that's why we're on here together.
Absolutely, sir. Well, let's go do some purposing, man. And thank you again for coming on the show. Can't wait to meet you in person, Bob.
My pleasure. Talk soon.
All right, boss. Thank you so much. Folks, another amazing episode. Cannot thank Denny for finding these folks, and Robert, cannot thank you enough for coming on the show. And really got to thank Trevor Millar, the COO for Ambio, for linking us up, man. Another amazing guest. Don't forget that Trevor and hopefully Robert will be at our summit on repetitive brain trauma in Tampa, September 16th and 17th of this year. We do have a golf tournament after that. Robert, if you ever do one, we got amazing events. You get to shoot a golf ball out of an M4, push a Humvee for 100 yards, have a litter carry for 100 yards, and guess what? On one of our par threes, you got to put on some body armor, and that's where men swing clubs. So we're looking forward to this golf tournament. We'll work with anybody that wants to do this kind of crazy stuff, having a lot of fun there. Don't forget our app on the Google and App Store, the only concussion app, Head Smart, with repetitive head impact information on it. And don't forget about the book. Okay, I had to write this after my boy went. This is the only book for parents. Hundreds of research papers in the back of this thing. It's been vetted by the CTE community, the medical community. I mean, and we just revised it. And guess what? If it say hablas español, it'll be in Spanish next month as well. And we're going to put it out as an audio book. So look, no need to not make good decisions about your kids. If they're going to play contact sports, take care of them just like Robin. Keep them safe. So last thing, you got your children out there. They only got one melon. Please take care of it. Till next time, we'll see you again at Broken Brains, the official podcast of the Mac Parkman Foundation. Thank you so much, and God bless.